Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 2026 Esports World Cup here in Paris, France. It's currently August 13th, and today we finished the group stage. So basically, the way that this works, we had 16 players, all right, and they went into two groups of 8. So 4 people have already qualified for the knockouts, the quarterfinal, semifinal, and the final. They are Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, Nojibek Abdusattorov, and Alireza Firouzja, which is fantastic. That is an amazing group of 4 people. But today, players like Hans Niemann, Jan Nepomniachtchi, Sina Movahed, Denis Lazavik, Arjun Erigaisi, Nihal Sarin, and all of the other monsters that lost at some point in the early stage are going to potentially qualify and join those 4. Fair enough. Okay, with that said, let's jump into the games. Let's go immediately to Hans Niemann versus Sina Movahed. And this is important because Sina actually won his first loser's bracket match. He played against Alexis Serrana, so he already won a match, and now he's playing Hans, and the winner of this match will make it into the final 8. Clearly, Hans Niemann is a favorite. If you've been watching the show, which you should, live every day around 12 or 1 Parisian time, Europe, I guess, main time. I predicted that Hans was a favorite, but if there was going to be a big chance for an upset, it would be Sina. So, but we'll be seeing about that. Anyway, c5, the Sicilian, e6 from the Iranian phenom, who is only 16 years old. Fun fact: when this kid was born, Magnus Carlsen was already the #1 ranked player in the world, and he still is. And that's pretty bananas. This is an Alpine Sicilian. After the move e6, Hans committed to playing c3. And then we play like this: bishop d3, bishop a6. And Sina goes to trade the light-scored bishop so that Hans doesn't have any checkmating ideas in the future. But from the opening, it's just Hans Niemann who has a little bit of an advantage. He has more central space. His a-pawn can walk down the board and maybe be used to instigate and kind of break through on the a-file. All right, d5 is also a reasonable move. If pawn takes, the queen takes, attacking the rook, and then when the knight comes out, the pawn on d7 is weak. So this is the way that Hans chooses to play it. And he plays it like this. And now black is going to have to create counterplay against the pawn on c3 versus the pawn on d7. Ultimately, this could result in white having a pawn up endgame because, as we kind of go further, down to this game, black has a few more pawns that can be exploited than white. But Hans chooses this moment to reposition his knight to g5 and then to e4, and it's quite clear that he wants to jump into the position. Queen goes back to d3, avoiding a queen trade. He's just doing a nice job maneuvering here. At some point, maybe his pawns are going to join the attack. Knight c6, f4, there it is. And Sina, very, very nice move, f5. So far, keeping up with Hans completely, totally neutralizing him. Hans jumps in finally. But this simplification is actually not it's not the worst thing in the world for black. It's still very difficult for Hans to break through. So we have queen takes, rook d6, pawn g5, very nice move. And now this pawn comes into f4. A pawn sacrificed by black, but he's going to win that pawn back on e5. Hans is still putting the pressure. Knight back to c6, rook takes d7. And he goes a pawn down, but it's back. But now it's like this. And this position is equal. This position is equal because if you trade the c pawn for the a pawn, it's a 2-on-1 endgame, and that's a draw. I mean, it's not an easy draw, but it's a draw. It's also not an easy draw. Like here, if you're the defending side and there's no bonus time, it's incredibly difficult to play. Incredibly difficult to play with low time. But Sina goes here, and now, I think his idea was that Hans's rook is super passive, but Hans runs his rook over and gets it more active, and now is going to win the g-pawn, and he's maintaining this 20-second time advantage, for the whole game. King back to c2, rook takes g7. He is still a pawn up, 30 seconds down by black. It's now probably something like 90% success rate for Hans to win this position, and he plays very nicely, continues to maneuver, black down to 50 seconds, king d4, rook f5, rook back to f2, nice lateral defending, and now that g-pawn is going to go. Practically speaking, I thought this was a winning endgame when I was watching it live, but it's actually not, because there are ideas to draw this by bringing in the king and then, getting the rook closer. But after king f4, here black has to give this check and just continue to check, and he does continue to check, but now he goes this way, and this is a losing move. He needed to continue to check, and then after king g2, then and only then do you go for this maneuver. This king has to be there. Otherwise, when you go for this maneuver, Hans has this amazing move. and this is just lost. And now the idea is that you can't stop the g-pawn. So rook b1, rook f1, Hans Niemann's pawn is a runaway freight train, and that is the end of game one. Now, Hans won this game like a 40-year-old 2770 rated grandmaster. All right, I'm looking at you, Vishy Anand. Like this man Hans won this game through old man chess. This wasn't a tactical game. This wasn't like a crazy, attacking affair. He just won. He just won a super chill game. Very, very good sustained pressure. Always had the initiative. But that's not the end of the story. That's not the end of the story. Let's not forget, his opponent is no pushover. And they have a 4 knights variation of the Spanish. Hans goes knight d4, and Sina plays a line which I've never seen before. He goes for a line where I think knight takes e5 is a bad move. I think you're supposed to go queen e7 here, followed by knight takes b5. And Hans goes here immediately, and then tanks for 2 minutes because he completely messed up the move order. He needed to play queen e7 first. Now you cannot play queen e7 because of this, and you would think, well, that's very easy, then I just play like this. But then the knight comes back, and this is always going to be protected, and this just doesn't work anymore. White is going to quickly castle. So Hans gets a much worse position from the opening, and he's down a lot on time, and White is just up a pawn, but Black has the bishop pair, so Hans messes up a little bit, but he gets back into the game, still trailing on time. Right, Sina's doing a nice job, putting some pressure, and then chaos happens. So Sina goes back with his knight, the bishop is attacked, bishop to f4, and here Hans just does something crazy, absolutely crazy. Doesn't need to do this at all, can continue to play positionally, goes g5, pushes the pawn where he is castled. An amazing sacrifice is coming. You can either take or play knight e4, it's actually even better, but this sacrifice happens, and this is not an easy position to defend practically, and before you know it, Hans Niemann is not defending this position at all, as it's an avalanche forming. Knight to f5, queen to g4. He is a minute and a half down. His position is much worse. Hans has 2 pawns. Count the amount of pawns White has. When was the last time you saw a position when somebody was up 5 pawns? But the crazy thing is, because White only has 3 minutes, he still has to play precisely. Hans brings the rooks, starts defending himself, and Sina gets to a completely dominant advantage. He just has to continue to apply pressure. He has double Hans's time, queen to g4. Here the move, knight to h6, ends the game, because after this move, it's +5. Bishop takes. Here, rook h7, you have to play queen f6 check, which is what he does. And now here, and here, you can play f3. And if the queen gives a check, you just run with the king. You have to run to the right square. And if queen g3, this is mate. So f3 would force queen g6, a queen trade, and rook c5. You cannot play rook c5 right now because this is hanging. If Sina finds f3 in this position, the game is over. Hans Niemann resigns. There is absolutely nothing here. Probably Sina was calculating something here, but f3 wins because after queen h3, king e2, queen g2, there is this. And as ridiculous as this position is, it's completely lost for Black because you're getting mated, you're going to lose a knight, and you're down 5 pawns, and you're down a minute and a half. So, but he doesn't find it. Unbelievable. He doesn't find it, and instead, not only does he not find it, before you know it, Hans Niemann's not even losing anymore. Then he is losing because he sacrifices a rook here, completely hallucinating. I don't even know what we're analyzing anymore. Hans Niemann sacrifices the rook. He's been watching too many of my videos. He would never admit that, but he has been watching too many of my videos. Goes for a king hunt. He's lost. Rook d8 check, king d4. He's running away Sina. He has 52 seconds on the clock. King h7, he's giving a million checks, but where's the win? And he blunders this queen retreat, and now he's losing. Oh, he was beside himself. His heart rate was like 160 something here. I mean, he needed to play rook to d2 to attack the queen and then make a getaway for his king, and the nerves got to him on the biggest stage, and Hans Niemann surviving like Houdini. I mean, literally, that was a magical defense. There is no other way to explain it. Still, there were some chances here. It was the time scramble. But ultimately, Hans Niemann, not to be denied, makes the draw and clinches a spot in the final 8. Crazy match between him and Sina. It was so close, and he almost pulled it off, but unfortunately, he could not. Or fortunately, I really don't care. Some would say literally don't, but Yeah, Hans wins. And all the favorites so far in these important matchups have been winning. A matchup where I cannot really tell you who is the favorite is this one between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Denis Lazavik. Yeah, one's a world championship contender. Denis, meanwhile, every year is stronger than the last year. It's crazy to think he's only 19. I feel like he has the experience of like a 25-year-old veteran of chess. This one, their second game, they drew their first one. We have a typical Italian game. To beat Denis, you need to be patient. You are not going to beat him in the first 30 moves of a game. It's going to be a long, grinding game. It's difficult to even imbalance the game against him because he is just so positional and sound. Here he takes the center, knight into g3. Jan goes for a little horse attack with, putting the knight on f5, and just talk about like positional understanding. Bishop c5, bishop f8. Are you kidding me? Like, grandmasters would look at this position and go, yeah, obviously, bishop c5, bishop f8. But, this is just... This is such a high level of understanding of chess. Like, to just simply move the bishop in this position to preemptively defend the kingside. Incredible understanding. Jan obviously met with good defense. Queenside, Denis sacrifices the b-pawn to win the pawn on d3, bishop e3, and at some point, with a guy like Jan, I think Jan is always looking to create some sort of complications in the position, but he can also play, solid and patient chess. But he was on the hunt with a guy like Denis, and Denis is a very dangerous opponent. He will lull you in. You will try to go for some risks against him, and it will backfire. So rook d1, rook d7, knight to f4, and suddenly Denis is kind of taking over the game, but it's still very balanced, 5 minutes per player. Rook trade. Now we're going to enter a long-term grinding endgame. Bishop takes h6. Nice tactic from Jan. You can't take because of the fork. Knight b2 is apparently a mistake. Here the queen needed to return to a2 to avoid, I guess, anything checking on d1. You had to go queen a2 and then put the queen on c4. This is wrong, because it allows black to centralize and control the c4 square, and also to attack the bishop. Now there is no knight f6 check. You had to go queen a2, which I guess basically prevented queen e6 completely. I don't know. But the game is still equal. Denis is down a minute and a half, so Nepo has a great position here. But here he needs to bring the bishop back out. That's what he has to do. He has to play bishop to g5. Okay. I guess. But he plays h4, which is, again, a move in a situation like this. You have a minute and a half advantage. The opponent has no bonus time. h4 is kind of like a provocation. You want to play h5, h6. But Denis is really good at not seeing ghosts. Like, he's really good at just kind of evaluating, like, I don't really think there's much here. And Nepo, he can bluff, especially in low time, as opposed to just playing, like, stable defense and sort of suffering. He's going to keep the bishop on the board, but now the knight is really strong. This pawn's going, and this bishop is still here. It's not even participating in the game anymore. Denis is doing all this with just a couple of pieces. He breaks out like this. Jan is just sacrificing his bishop, by the way. Jan is not going for, and then he blunders this pawn. I think when Jan played h5, he had calculated queen b2, some sort of knight e7, and then knight on g6, and he went for, some sort of tricks, and Denis just, like, took his pawn. And now Nepo's just losing. He's just losing. He's down a minute and a half, and now he comes back for the bishop, and Jan goes c4. He doesn't have to sacrifice the bishop. He can play the bishop back or something like this, but of course he's going to lose in the long run in all likelihood, so he rolls the dice. But Denis Lazavik, like, he's not afraid of ghosts. He's 19. He's not afraid of ghosts. Gives a check, gives another check, and just brings the queen back. 47 seconds on the clock, but it's over. Can't give him a check. Pawn's going to promote. Knight endgame. Here comes the king. Pawn's going to run all the way down the board if you let it, and just king d4, king c4, knight b3. How are you supposed to beat this guy? Denis Lazavik is like freaking Iron Man. Like, this dude, he's just completely indestructible. He's so good. It's the only reason that he lost against Hikaru is because he went for a bad transformation of position. I feel like guys like Hikaru and Magnus win a lot of these games purely on psychology. Like, they get into the head of their opponent. Their opponent plays a little bit out of character, but against anybody else in the world, Denis is in. Now, if you were to ask me the 4 best speed players in the world right now, I would tell you Magnus, Hikaru, Denis, and Alireza, and all of them have qualified. And then you have Nodirbek Abdusattorov on top of that, and Hans Niemann. This is easily the most stacked field ever in an 8-player knockout. I wish they could all play each other, honestly. It's such a shame that we're not going to get all of them to play against all of the others. But now we have to crown 2 more people into the final 8. And may I present to you Arjun Erigaisi versus Pranesh. Pranesh was a substitute into this tournament. He didn't qualify. I'm not sure if he played some. He must have. He must have played enough tournaments to get very close. But I don't remember because ultimately there were players who dropped out and then they were replaced, and Pranesh was one of the replacements. Very good, but not quite at this level yet. This is his first chance. He's also 19, but he's not. I don't think he's as strong as Lazavik. Lazavik is clearly 2700 level. Like, if Lazavik got more opportunities to play, his FIDE, Rapid, and Blitz would all be like 2680, 2710, 2720, maybe even higher. He's so damn good. He is so good. Pranesh, he took down Benjamin Bach in the early stage, and Arjun Erigaisi is only in the loser's bracket because he lost to Alireza Firouzja, who he lost to last year in the 3rd and 4th place match. Like, what are you going to do, right? In the semifinal, I guess. Now, Arjun does what Arjun does best. He shows up to the chessboard, he takes out a smoke bomb, and he just, like, blows it up. The position immediately from the opening is complete nonsense, just, like, ridiculous position where white has not pushed the single central pawn. It's a very known variation, actually. This b4 line, it's very trendy nowadays. Those of you that watched my video on the best chess game I ever played, my game against Emilio Cordova back in the day when I played this move g5. Nobody plays that anymore, but they play whatever this is now. And, you know, Pranesh plays his preparation. Erigaisi has a better position from the opening, but it's just around even. And now he's going to, you know, he's going to do what he does best. He's going to get into a position where he is just worse, where the computer is evaluating him as an underdog to play the game. Rook c1. He doesn't take on b7 here. He tries to defend his pawn. And Erigaisi is down on time and down on position, which is exactly where he wants the game. You know, the absolute madman pushes through the pawn, gets it, you know, gets the C and D pawns rolling. Master of chaos. Queen goes back. The rook is trapped. Erigaisi has trapped his own rook on b5. So now he has to go here and lose a pawn. But he's going to play rook b4, right? So now the bishop can't take because of the pin. So you take here. Queen comes out to e2. And Erigaisi is just like straight up down a pawn with a worse position with 2.5 minutes down. Right? I mean, that makes sense. So that makes sense that over the next couple of moves, Pranesh basically freezes in his tracks and gives away like a bunch of the advantage. And Erigaisi starts playing a little bit faster and jumps his knight in all the way to g7, and now the position is equal. Like, the way Arjun turns games around based on, you know, opponent's hesitation is also completely fascinating. He's still down nearly a full minute on the clock here. 52 seconds. Rook e1 check, rook e2, and Arjun is swarming in with the rooks, attacking the bishop, ultimately sending the game into a rook endgame where he's going to lose the pawn, right? And Arjun goes from a pawn up. Sorry, Arjun goes from a pawn down. Just a pawn down, 5-4. For like 20 moves, this man was just down a pawn to using his piece activity to win all of his opponent's pawns. And this endgame is still equal. That's the craziest part. Like, despite all of that, the endgame is still equal. And then Arjun's going to do Arjun things. He's just going to keep improving. a4, king g2. He pushes the rook. He pushes the pawn. How is he going to win this? He's going to run the king to the other side of the board. And the second you take, you lose. There was no reason. Nobody told Pranesh to take this pawn. I get why he did it. He probably saw the king coming. But actually, after king f7, king b2, if the rook just hangs out along here and this king comes forward and you come back and the king comes this way and you start giving checks and the king goes here and you give another check and the king goes here and you give another check and the king goes to a7, this is a draw because rook b3, rook b8, rook f3, and let's say you go like rook here and the king is going to go here. Black has enough time to take the pawn, put the rook back on a3, sacrifice the rook in this position, and go h3 and actually draw the game, which is sort of insane. Yeah, it's actually just a draw. Now, you have to see that. You have to see that and feel that, and instead he does this, and now he's losing. Now he's losing because his rook is never going to be behind in time. He does this. Now the rook slides out of the way. You get lateral defense here like this. Apparently this is wrong. You have to play rook c6, but it's still practically very challenging. And Arjun is still going to get his winning position. And Arjun, after some 80 moves, wins the game. Typical Arjun Erigaisi game. Ridiculous opening, winning, losing, drawing, winning, losing, drawing, winning, losing, drawing, winning, losing, drawing, and wins in the end. And this is how the best players do it. I mean, not him. Sorry, not mostly Arjun. He has games that are, you know, this chaotic and this crazy. But he gets the job done. He defeats Pranesh. He also knocked out Nihal Sarin into the loser's bracket earlier, so kind of a tough tournament for him because he has to beat everybody from the home country. Pranesh will be happy. He won a couple of matches, or maybe just one? Just one. I think he beat Bach, but he's going to get like 25K, so he's obviously going to be thrilled. And yeah, he's going to look to improve. I mean, he's going to look to improve. And that brings me to the last player. The last player. Jan-Krzysztof Duda or Nihal Sarin. Jan-Krzysztof defeated... Who did he defeat? No. Nihal Sarin. Nihal Sarin was knocked out earlier, and he had to play Wei Yi. I mean, that's freaking brutal. Like, your first pairing is Wei Yi. And he beat him. And he won a very nice game against him. And now he qualifies to play Duda. And folks, I'm actually not going to analyze this game too deep. It was equal for a long time. It was a Queen's Gambit decline. Very solid game. Nihal, one of the, you know, best positional players on the circuit, especially in short time controls. I don't know about classical, but I mean, you know, Duda went to put pressure. He did the typical Super GM stuff. He tried to break at some point with a pawn. Nihal took a lot of space and defended. And now we have a break in the position, and we're going to have a transformation of bishop versus knight. Okay, so this is our endgame. Duda is down on time. Now we have bishop versus knight. And the boys here threaten us with like 17 different repetitions. They're obviously going to make a draw. But they got to make a draw. And now Nihal, from this position, 40-50. I mean, Duda's ready for a draw. He's going to go here, repeat moves. Just repeat moves, right? Just repeat moves. Bring the knight back, all right, just repeat moves. Now Nihal is down 20 seconds on the clock. He's down 20 seconds. And at some point, Duda's like, I'm going to eat some pawns. And he has to give away his bishop, but his king is super active, so he's going to win a couple of pawns here. Guys, I would like to draw your attention to the clock. It is 22-9. And right here, you know, he keeps using the king as a shield against Nihal. And they keep repeating. So they repeat the position. He goes back again. King c5, king d7. Nihal is trying to win. For him to win this game, he either has to win on time and keep a couple of his pawns, or he has to straight up win. Like, he has to promote a pawn. And what he ends up in a position here is 4 seconds, 3.5 seconds on the clock. This is unwinnable. I do not think you can win this position with black. 2.8 seconds. I don't think you can win this. 2.3 seconds. If here Duda even plays h4, h4 is the worst move you can play because Nihal might be pre-moving. But if you just run around with the king, like, or go here, king d4, because after king d4, there is no way for Nihal to win his pawns. There's no way. He could go king d4 and sneak through a pawn, and Nihal would have had to know that he was pre-moving it. King d4, king d3, king d2, like, you are losing, but you are wasting time. You're going to waste time. Duda repeats the position and makes a draw. Now, I don't know if this was on purpose. I don't know if he was being gentlemanly. 2.3 seconds on the clock here for black. I don't even think Nihal would be able to win this. Right now, I'm saying it right now. Like, I don't know if he can pre-move this out. Like, it's not, I don't know how it would be possible. Now, maybe he disagrees with me, but to make a draw here is crazy to me. And that's going to be very important because in the very next game, we have a typical Nihal game. We have a solid queen's pawn game. He's very good at these stable structures, very good at static positions, very good at maneuvering. When we see a lot of repositioning here. Boys are moving the pieces over there to the queen side. Nihal kind of just like moving around, trading, repositioning the knight very nicely to stand behind the d-pawn. Bishop a5, bishop b4. And now he gets his piece activity, right? And now he gets the knight to b4. And right here, danger, you know, because if you take the knight, I take your knight, but the knight sacrifices itself, almost like a desperado. It was going to be taken anyway. So now white is a pawn up, and now Duda has a very unpleasant job of defending his queen side. and you just feel like things have been slipping out of your control. b4 here keeps the bishop in the position, but we have queen d3, queen b5, queen b7 infiltration. Nihal, you know, continuing to apply pressure to Duda, and Duda gets this, but Nihal just has the b pawn. He just has the b pawn, and if he can nurture that b pawn, it's a typical Magnus style game. We've seen Magnus win these games like this all the time, and it's done. Duda does not defend the position well. Very dejected, I think. I think, honestly, he was very upset with himself, how he played. And before you know it, the pawn just goes, if you take it, I give you this check, and I win your knight. And that's the end of the game. And that is the last person. That is the last person. Duda was very unhappy with himself. In the he didn't really praise Nihal at all. I'm not criticizing him for that. I'm saying he spent about 2.5 minutes just being like, I was very upset with how I played. I didn't play well. I didn't play well. I didn't play well. But, like, I think if he had won that first game, he would have won this match because, maybe not. Maybe Nihal wins the second game. But, I mean, a win like that is crushing, you know? And he could have put himself in a position to be one of the final 8, and that's brutal, you know? Esports World Cup is brutal. It's unforgiving. And that means that all the matchups are set. That means that all the finalists are set. We have Nihal, we have Arjun Erigaisi, we have Hans Niemann, we have Denis Lazavik, who all qualified today, and they join Nodirbek Abdustarov, Alireza Firouzja, Magnus Carlsen, and Hikaru Nakamura. And I don't know if the matchups are...
I messaged you.
Oh, my wife messaged me. My wife messaged me the matchups. We're a team here. All right. Breaking the fourth wall. Magnus gets the first pick of his opponent, and he chooses... It's already like 30 minutes behind, but, you know, it's okay. So Magnus chose to play Nihal, which means that Hikaru is going to play Arjun Erigaisi. Nodirbek, I guess, chose to play Denis, and that means the last matchup is Alireza Firouzja versus Hans Niemann. Okay, so in this field, there are 2 matchups that I think have a favorite, but very slight. So obviously Magnus is a favorite against Nihal. Hikaru Arjun, I mean, Hikaru is a favorite, but slight. Nodirbek Denis, I have absolutely no idea, really. I truly have no idea. I think that's probably as 50-50 as it gets, and probably Firouzja 55, Hans 45. I think Firouzja probably has a good score against Hans. But maybe I'm wrong. But I can't tell you right now. I think obviously the biggest favorite is Magnus Nihal. Poor Nihal, man. Oh my God. It's just... So those are your matchups. And then I guess they play into... I don't know who plays the winner of what. No, nobody knows. Doesn't matter. I'll be doing the commentary of the semifinals, which are tomorrow. Tune in. It's quarterfinal, then semifinal. I think on the last day is the finals and the third place match. I think. Anyway... That's all I have for you today. Tune in, do your pick'ems for the rest of the Esports World Cup. Guys have a chance to win some cash. Enjoy yourselves, and get out of here.